to let people in.
Are they the same people I had when I was giving lectures like 3 years ago?
Oh, I mean, probably a lot of different ones. Maybe one or two similar.
Okay.
Has
Hi.
anyone here been in a lecture with Romain before?
So hi everyone.
Oh.
Adi Panda, I remember that name. Yes. But the last time was, I think, more than 3 years ago. I think it was before COVID. So
No, we started after COVID. So.
no, it
Yeah.
was no, it was November. It was November. I think it was November 2020 last time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember because I was in Germany.
Okay.
I remember. Yeah. So that's 3 years.
Mm. Feel free to get started anytime you're ready.
Okay, all right. So welcome everyone. Some of you might know that I've been working with former world champion Vestlin Topalov from 2010 2014. If you didn't know about it, now you do. So Vestlin was world champion in 2005. He lost his title to Kramnik in 2006. And well, we worked together from 2010 till 2014, which were basically the last days of his very professional career. After that, he stopped playing serious chess. I mean, he stopped. We don't see him playing that often, let's say. So he did that last. I was his second during his basically last cycle, FIDE cycle. FIDE World Champion cycle, which was 2012 and 13. He played the candidates in 2014. So we've been working together a little bit more than 3.5 years, basically working nonstop. So I'm going to show you a game that was played against Nakamura. It was a preparation for a tournament that existed in France and no longer does, unfortunately. It was played in Monaco. It was the Melody Amber. You might have heard of it. It disappeared like some 10 years ago or 11 years ago. Actually, that game from 2011, which I'm gonna show, might be from the last edition of the tournament. It was basically the 10 best players of the world competing in rapid, blitz, and a blindfold for an extremely huge prize money. So people, although it was not classical chess, players were taking it extremely seriously. So we prepared for the tournament up front. We were in Salamanca, where Topalov lives, and Nakamura was always playing that line in the French. So e4, e6. So that's a classical French, the Steinitz variation. And
Sorry
now
to break up. Sorry to interrupt real quick. Just to remember, if anyone ever like wants to answer a question, you can always turn on their microphone so they can speak to the whole class. Or you can even Kostya, do you handle that, or does the coach do it usually? Kostya might not be here, but do you know how to do that if it comes up?
I should, yeah.
Okay.
Well, if somebody asks in the chat, yeah.
Like if they want to volunteer their answer, you can unpause their microphone, stuff like that. Or they can also chat things. That's all. Sorry to interrupt.
I have the chat open.
Okay,
do you mean
cool.
I can unmute them as well, yeah? Yes, like if I want somebody to speak, I can unmute him, right?
Exactly.
That's what you mean.
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes, yeah.
Adi is saying that last time was 3:21:22. Don't know what it means. 21:22.
Oh, that would be March.
Some number. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so Topalov was always playing. Was always playing this variation. So there are many moves for black here. You can play a6 b5 to expand on your pawns on the queen side. You can take on d4. You can play bishop e7. Other moves are not so advisable. Queen b6 is very playable as well. But this is a quite critical line. Actually, I actually used it as black recently. It is extremely concrete, and black should know extremely well what he's doing if he doesn't want just to lose out of the opening. But if he knows everything by heart in every variation, then it's the line is probably objectively a draw. So people like to, I mean, this tennis variation in the French is not easy to meet, so this Queen B6 is becoming popular again because they found out somehow that it holds, and it's difficult to find new ideas for white because everything has been tried. But back in 2011, when I was working with Topalov, not everything had been tried. Many things had, but not everything. So we went for the main theory. We did not find anything better than sacking the b2 pawn as everyone is doing and playing bishop b5, which is just a developing move. Usually you refute this queen takes b2 ideas with knight b5, but there would be queen takes a2, which attacks the black rooks. It's not that clear. Actually, Firouzja played it recently against Karana, but it's subjectively quite good for black. So bishop b5 is the main move, and knight takes d4 is nowadays the only playable line. In the pre-computer era, there was, I think, Grandmaster Volkov who was playing all the time this ugly move knight db8 with very reasonable results. But okay, nowadays you put the computer and it's just boom, boom, boom. It's just crushing the variation completely. So knight takes d4, bishop takes d4 and a6. This is the main line. And here the main theory goes bishop takes, rook b3, a very clever move, because if the queen goes to a5, you trap it with bishop b6. And it forces queen e7, and now it looks like black has big problems to develop, but actually just queen d8 or queen h4 first. That's also possible. And for example, bishop b6, queen c8, rook c7, you go back to d8, and it's not so clear. You can't go to b8 because of knight takes d5, I believe. And if the takes, you can't hold everything because d7 is under attack, and if it cannot move because there'll be either queen c6 or queen takes f7. So, but there the line is just starting. There are many moves. I don't think bishop b6 is, yeah, bishop b6 is a move. And now I think I had one game recently against previous French champion Jules Moussard. He played queen e3, and then I just developed and I was fine. But queen d4 is extremely tricky, And now they go bishop a3. It's a crazy amount of theory. Knight b1 followed by c4 is one of the critical lines. A lot of theory, but there we could not find something convincing for white. And also, we really wanted to find something revolutionary, like something we didn't want just a small idea like try to be a tiny bit better in the main line. We wanted to find something that would really be a shock for the opponent. And it took us some time, but at some point we thought, okay, do we really have to trade this bishop for this d7 knight, for the d7 knight? Of course, it makes sense to do it because with rook b3 to follow and rook takes b7, you get your pawn back. Black is late in his development. So it does make a lot of sense, but if theory says that it's okay, if computer confirms that it's okay, what can we do there? So we started to think that we should try to keep the bishop. But doing it right away, I think, would not make much sense because black would be able to develop his bishop to b4, for example. Like if you play bishop a4, well, first of all, probably, no, b5 actually would transpose into the game that we will see. But I think there would be bishop b4 because now the bishop on a4 would be, I mean, queen takes a4 would be a strat just to trade everything. So we thought, why not to first play rook b3, queen e7 is forced anyway, because now if queen a5, of course, again, we take on d7 and bishop b6. So the queen has to go to e7. At first, it looks very dumb what we're doing, because bishop d7 does not make sense any longer because of queen takes d7. We can't take the Beethoven pawn, and the f8 bishop is able to develop. That would make strictly no sense for white. But we had this idea of going bishop a4 and see what happens if black goes b5 and take the bishop. And Topalov had this philosophy that when you prepare openings, you should try to manage to expect. You should try to understand how your opponent is going to react. And the fact that nobody plays bishop a4, if you are black, you've never seen that move bishop a4. The engine has never been suggesting it. Nobody has tried it. You think, okay, bishop a4 has to be bad because of b5. But actually b5 is a big blunder here. Actually, later it was found, I mean, the analysis we did with Veselin was found later. Best is to go queen d8 or queen h4 and then queen d8. It's the same because we go bishop f2 if queen h4 and then bishop b6. And now white can play on with g3 and queen g4, I remember, was best. But I remember that after queen h3, we were struggling to find an idea because it prevents short castle. And then we found out that rook f1 followed by f5 was extremely dangerous. Some computer stuff, but basically black is not in time to develop, and f6 is coming in case of short castle, and black is sort of paralyzed. That was working very well for white, but queen g4 was the best move. Still, we had a nice idea here, which unfortunately Topalov forgot when he repeated the line 5 years later. We wanted knight e4. It is not a win for white, but it is highly interesting. Instead, he played Grichuk a few years later. It was also a rapid game, I think. He played castle. Probably he remembered this rook on f1 against queen h3, and he thought that short castle can only be an improvement. But there was a huge difference that here black just castles. The g5 square is under control, so f6 is just basically blundering a pawn, while rook f4 is met with bishop g5 trading queens, and the white position is just bad because there is an extra pawn for black and there is no compensation for it. But we had ideas. Our line was continuing knight e4. I mean, no doubt that if Nakamura had played like this, Topalov would have played knight e4 because he would have remembered. I mean, we worked on it 3 days before. That 5 years later he did not remember is something else. I would probably not have remembered either unless I checked before the game. But knight e4, the idea was that if pawn takes e4, we go rook c3, and we're gonna sack on c8 and take on d7, which is a total disaster for black. You can try to survive with bishop b4, so that here queen takes d7 is not possible. But anyway, the position is a total disaster. Black is completely paralyzed, rook d1 is coming, that's just game over. So I think the main move in our analysis after knight e4 was bishop e7. And we wanted to check, take the bishop pair and play this position, a pawn down, where black is sort of paralyzed by this bishop on b6. Black can take it, but then he has to be careful that because d7 is coming. So rook d8 would probably be necessary. Black should be able to hold according to the engine. But okay, over the board, it looks quite disgusting to play. I mean, queen c3, queen c7 coming, and black is so paralyzed. We were quite happy with this position. We saw that at least in practice and especially in rapid, because that was, as I said, for this Melody Amber, which was rapid. We thought that should work pretty well. But anyway, Nakamura fell for the trap. He thought, okay, bishop a4 can't be good. Let me play b5. And of course, our idea was to sack on b5 and take back with the knight. And now we want to play knight c7 check. We'll also threaten knight d6 check. And black is already having problems. Queen d8 is pretty much the only way to avoid both knight c7 and knight d6. But we continue with queen c3. And we renew the threat of knight c7 check. And it starts to be quite difficult, not to say impossible, to stop it. Queen a5 was played by black with, of course, dreaming of a queen's exchange. But now we give a check and take the rook. And black is in a situation of frustration because he would like to trade queens, of course, but he can't do that if he does not recover the knight, because then white will be an exchange and a pawn up. So black has to take the knight. I mean, he's so close from trading queens, but no. First, you have to take the knight, my friend. So it's time to castle for white. There is no immediate checkmate. The material is almost equal. We have a rook and a pawn for 2 pieces. So that's in black's favor and slightly in black's favor. But our king is much safer. Our development is much better. Our rooks are extremely active. So we do have extremely obvious compensation. After Nakamura played Queen A4, I think Vesco Veselin was out of book. We had checked some moves, some reactions on the king side, trying to do something like Rook G8 in order to play G5, because we saw black needs to find counterplay, otherwise it just gets smashed with Rook B1 to come. But we play Rook B1, and anyway there are ideas like this, and if knight takes bishop B6, then either queen takes c8 or queen c7, and checkmate to follow. So, well, that's just a little summary of our analysis, because 1 hour would not be enough to show the whole analysis we've done on the line. I mean, it took us a few days. But anyway, we checked a few moves, and Queen A4 was not one of them. Although it is actually perfectly logical, the queen is heading to c4, which can be a good defending square, although we're not too afraid of it because we will have a check on a5. But black has a big threat here, which is to take on d4, followed by bishop c5, to trade all the pieces, and that we definitely don't want. Of course, that would favor black enormously. Even the king on d8 would be on the perfect position, so it can come to c7. So we should definitely avoid all these trades. So Topalov played king h1. Bishop e7 was played, rook to b1. That's all perfectly logical, and Nakamura reacted in the center in a different way than the one we expected. There, Topalov made his only mistake in the game. He missed one very strong rook move here, which is not the one you would probably think at first. Could you? So everybody in the chat is welcome to propose a move. It would be nice if everybody could propose a move. Okay, looking at the chat now, it seems like I missed many messages. One comment by Greg. Vihan, correct. So I've got one good answer. Perhaps the second one. 2 good answers. Of course, there are 3 moves to be considered, but most of you are focusing on only on the first 2, on the 2 obvious ones, and the 2 obvious ones are not really working that well. But already 3 good answers. It's not so bad. So it is not rook b8. Wait, let me. Because I think black can just take. No, maybe not take because there is bishop b6. But black can probably just let me try to remember. Probably can just protect. Because it has to be careful. You cannot do stuff like this because of checkmate on f1. And after queen a6, knight takes b8 becomes a strat. This rook b6 now would be met with queen f1. So rook b8 is not working so well. Rook b7 is not working so well either. I think we just take and go queen c4. And there is simply not enough. You can give a check and run away. Run to f7, which is the main idea of playing f6, besides opening the king side and get some activity. Of course, if the black king can reach f7, it's doing very well there. And well, the d4 bishop is hanging, so rook b7 is not working too well. So 12 messages. Let me see. Looks like I got. Yeah, I got a few more good answers. So indeed, the move which was missed by Topalov here is rook to b6. So don't worry, guys. Every time I show this game, everyone is wondering whether it should be rook b8 or rook b7, but you actually have to stop one square earlier. The rook is untouchable because of bishop takes b6 check, and then you're gonna take the bishop on c8. You're gonna take the rook on h8. You're gonna take it all. And you're hitting the e6 pawn, but you have an even stronger threat here, which is to go rook c6 and create a total KO in the black position. So for example, queen c4. Here we can even trade queens because the bishop comes to c3 and bishop a5 is impossible to prevent. Black is losing heavy material here because of bishop a5 check. He's losing at least, at the very least, one piece. Could be more. So rook b6 would have been very strong because it also it threatens rook c6. It also attacks the e6 pawn. That would have been pretty nasty for black. Topalov missed it. He took on f6. And there, Nakamura should have taken with a bishop on f6 to simplify the position. But he probably thought, why would I trade these bishops when I can bring a pawn toward the center with gf6? And the d4 bishop is hanging in many lines if white tries to do something with his queen. But actually, bishop takes f6 was much better. I mean, then the position would be unclear. Perhaps still easier for white, but objectively unclear. But gf6 is bad. Guess the reason why? Okay, let's see how many good answers I get. So, indeed, there is rook b6 again, and this time Topalov saw it. And of course, the rook is still untouchable for the same reasons. And actually, this is an even better version than before, probably, because now the e file has opened. So if we take on e6, we will be able to double rocks. If queen c4, there will be the same rook c6 problem. That's probably just an even better version for white. Black took on a2. I don't think Nakamura considered this pawn as something important, but he probably saw it as the only way to prevent both rook c6 and rook takes c6, because now the rook on b1 would be hanging. So I think that was more a desperation move than let's say a fighter move, like I'll take your pawn and I will beat you. I think it was more desperation. Topalov played rook e1 here, which is the human move. I mean, you're targeting the e6 pawn. So it does make a lot of sense to play rook e1, but actually rook b3 was stronger. It is not something you do naturally, because you want, as white, when you're white, you want to keep a rook on the first rank just to make sure nothing wrong is gonna happen. But rook b3 is very annoying because it prevents queen c4, and now it's gonna take ages to the black queen to come back into play. Meanwhile, white is continuing his attack, and the position is basically lost for black, with queen c4 being impossible. So rook b3 would have been game over, but Topalov played rook e1, which is not bad, but not a killer as rook b3 would have been. Let me check the chat. Well, rook a1, there would be queen c4. Anyway, black is gonna play queen c4 if he's allowed to, so we better have the rook on e1, targeting the e6 pawn, getting ready to double rocks with rook b6 rather than on a1. Queen c4 was played and Topalov just took, because, well, actually the best move for black was to trade queens. But after bishop takes c3, it looks like bishop a5 is coming again, and it looks like black can resign. If you go rook e8, you almost self-mate because there is bishop a5. If you move the bishop, there is also bishop a5. So you're losing at least a piece in every variation. But actually, that was the only chance to, well, let's say that was objectively the least damage, because black can play knight e5 here, but still after takes, and takes, white is going to protect the e7 pawn. That should be a pretty easy win for white with 2 extra pawns. But the engine claims that black has some chances, because he will try, let's say, to play rook a8, bring the bishop to e4, perhaps the rook to a2. You know, if you can manage something like this, if you can put the bishop on a strong square, then perhaps at some point you can also activate your rook to a2. There is a bit of technical work for white here. So actually the engine was claiming this is best, but relatively best. I mean, it still gives like plus 150 for white, or plus 2 perhaps. But other moves are much worse simply. But you had to see 95, and even if you see it, you must like it. I mean, I'm not, even if I saw it, I'm not sure I would play it as black, because I would see this endgame with playing 2 pawns down and a pawn 1 square away from queening. I'm not sure I would actually go for it, even seeing it. Nakamura played bishop b4, so he wants to force a queen trade in a much better version, because the bishop will not be coming to a5. But of course, now we don't trade queens, we take on f6, takes, king c7. So basically, it is not so easy for white, because queen h8 would be answered with bishop takes e6, and you can't take the bishop because of the background checkmate on f1. So Nakamura, I highly doubt that he liked his position. But he probably thought, okay, there doesn't seem to be any killer here. So I think even if he saw that end game with queen takes e3 and knight e5, he probably thought, okay, there are more fighting chances here, more practical chances than playing this terrible end games 2 pawns down. So now there would be a move for white that would immediately put an end to the game. Like it would be like maximum 2 moves, perhaps 3, and black would resign. Topalov missed it. Can you find it? I'll read everything in the chat in the meantime. If I miss an important question at some point, because sometimes many messages come, if I miss a very important question, you can repeat it, of course, until I answer it. Because there are many messages. I try to keep the chat always open so I don't miss messages. Here there will be a move that just wins material. That solved this problem of not being able to take the black rook because of the back rook checkmate. There is a killer move here. So beware, your 2 rocks are hanging, so you can't do anything. You can also, if you give too many rocks, you might also lose with white. I see 1 correct answer so far. C3, I don't think so, because I just go bishop e6. 2 correct answers, 3, 4. How many people are we tonight? Well, tonight. Today in your case. Tonight in my case. 35, okay. Okay, I see more and more good answers. So indeed, Topalov missed queen e5 here, which was extremely powerful because the king can't go to the 8th rank, otherwise queen takes h8 and the c8 bishop is pinned. Actually, queen d8 is anyway a check and queen b8 is not possible. So the king has to go there, and now queen g7 is a crucial intermediary move. And next you take the rook on h8 and the c8 bishop will be pinned. If queen c7, you can choose. You can take on h8 because there is no back rank checkmate, or you can win the queen with rook e7. So that would have been game over immediately. But Topalov decided for rook e7 check. He missed this queen e5 ID, went rook e7, which is clever because if bishop takes, queen takes, then on the next move, you're either going, there will be a fork. You're either going to play queen e5 check or queen f6 check, and you're gonna take that rook on h8 for free because the e1 rook is still there defending against queen f1. So that was Topalov's point, but it allowed bishop d7, which is a sort of free leave for black. Now Topalov gave this check, but it was 1 move too late. But anyway, his position was good. Now he could not find a forced win for good reason. There is no forced win. So he just played queen takes h8. Black should take that rook so that rook takes bishop is impossible because of queen f1 as usual. He gave a check and then he centralized this queen to e5. Material is about equal because we have rook and 2 pawns for 2 bishops. If the bishops are very active, usually you prefer to have the 2 bishops, but there it is clear who has the most activity. I mean, the white pieces are shining, the f-pawn is going to queen, is going to promote, so it's clear that the black bishops are not superior than the rook and the 2 pawns. So queen e5, and now bishop c5 was played, which is pretty natural, but actually this was better than to try to go bishop d6, king c7 and hold, because queen c7 had an extra defender to the f8 square. So white will easily push his pawn to f7. but it will be more difficult to push it further. After bishop c5 played by Nakamura, Topalov pushed his pawn, and now it's just difficult to find something to do as black. The position is quite terrible. Nakamura took on c2. At first, that looks brave, like, whoa, he's taking on c2, he's allowing queen takes d5. But queen takes d5 would actually be a terrible mistake by white, because black would play king c7, and actually the position would be more open, there would be no direct checkmate, and there would be clear counterplay for black. So the d5 pawn is kind of a poisoned pawn. It would be just a tremendous mistake to take it. So I think this is what Nakamura was hoping for, but obviously Topalov was just wanting to, Topalov just wanted to queen his f pawn. So he pushed it, queen f5, queen e8, and the pawn. Well, I wanted you to find these moves. This move I showed it. It's a pity. Yeah, queen e8, king c7, and yeah, I wanted to stop there, but it went to alpha move too far. So f7 would give black time to try to organize his defense a little bit better, perhaps play bishop d7 or something. But rook c1 is a true killer, because apart from the black queen, all the pieces are standing on the c5. So rook c1 is pretty much a killer. King b6 was played, and now white gave a check. No, white played f7, because this pawn has to be there in order to... Rook takes c5 is not a threat yet, but soon it will be. d4 was played, some kind of desperation. If the black pawn reaches d2, there will be counterplay, but this black is definitely too slow. White gave a check, the king went to b5, and now what was the final move? Just putting an end to the game. There are many winning moves here, but one of them is just forcing an immediate resignation. It's not rook c5, because I take with the queen, and you have to be careful, because I'm threatening checkmate. Of course you can play h3, but then you have to be careful about perpetual check. f8 is probably winning. Then I guess black would take, well, with whatever. Queens would get traded, and black would try to do something with his d pawn, but I don't think he would be on time. There is something much smoother, something much cleaner, what I would call a chirurgical win. So somebody, okay, two correct answers in the chat already. So queen c7 is a killer here, because it's a threat to take everything on c5 and promote. And if the bishop moves, there is simply queen takes c8. So that's absolutely game over. So this kind of games, when you're working for such a player like Topalov, there are a reward for the player, but for the second as well, because when you put so much effort working on some opening line, and it works, and it goes so well and brings a full point, I mean it's true. I mean, the player is obviously very happy, but it's a very big satisfaction for the second as well. So it belongs to unforgettable moments, because we have few of these victories that Topalov scored thanks to new ideas, and this well, maybe some of you have my book, My Magic Years with Topalov. There you will have the full story, and all the most important games. Yes, Romero is French. You might hear it from my accent. Though I'm not, I guess my accent is not too bad for a French chess player. It is probably bad, but Could be worse. Could be worse. Try another French grandmaster. Could be worse. Uh, anyway, we had yeah, we had. I'll just add a few words about this year with Topalov. Although I might show extra games if we do more of these lectures. Um, there was a funny story in Vaikanze where he won only one game out of 13. Okay, man, of course he made many draws. He didn't lose all the rest, but he got many good positions. He won only one game. It was a funny thing because he won the game. He won against Giri, who was white. Giri was always playing the Petrov at the time, and it was a funny thing because he was always repeating the same line. And I found a small advantage for white. So at breakfast, when I met Veselin, and I told him, okay, you have to do this, 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 and this, and then you're slightly better. And I told him I don't understand why he keeps playing this line because it's a very easy, you're slightly better, and the black position is extremely difficult to play. And it was two things were quite funny. Firstly, I told Veselin to play rook H E1 in one position, and he played rook D E1. I was wondering why. And after the game, I got funny comments from both players. First of all, Giri was laughing at me. He said, okay, of course you find this idea because you have absolutely no idea about Petrov. This idea that is refuting my line is completely against all existing concepts. So somebody who knows the Petrov well would never find it, but of course you found it because you have no knowledge of the Petrov. We're good friends with Anish, so it was just making fun, you know. That was the first funny thing, and the second funny thing was when I asked Topalov why he put the wrong rook on E1. I thought maybe he did not remember correctly. He told me, okay, I thought I was smart enough to improve on your preparation, and I immediately realized that rook H1 would have been much better. But okay, he won that game anyway. There are many stories like this. There are many stories like this. I might tell more another time. Now we have 15, 17 minutes left. What would you like to do with this time? I don't think we have time for an entire game, but maybe you would like me to show you some puzzles. Although they don't have anything to do with Topalov. Yeah, I can definitely pick some puzzles. I will just stop sharing my screen for a minute just to give me time to select few puzzles. So would you like middle games tactics, end games tactics? I guess middle game. End game. Because I do have end games tactics. This is something you see a bit less often than middle game tactics. I won't show a study. I won't show a study. I will show real games, but trust me, I picked a few very good. I have a few very good ones. Some of them from my books, yeah. I generally don't like studies so much because I think you learn much more from more realistic positions. So I like to give puzzles that come from real games. Okay, so you want end games. Let me open my end games file and give you some nice positions. Do you prefer average puzzles or so that we can do few of them, or do you prefer very tough puzzles where you will fight against each other to know who finds quicker than the others? Do I have the chat anymore? Where is it? So few. Okay, it's a mix. So okay, I will try to make a mix then. I do have a game here like that is almost like a study if you really want to study. Do you want a study like position? That's what you were asking for? Okay, let's go for it then. So black to play, let me switch sides. Black to play. Black to play and save that game. If white is able to play, say, rook c6 and paralyze the black rook on c8, then it's game over because white will just push his h pawn. So black should act quickly and actively. Okay, 18 messages already. So it's black to move, I said. Don't say h6 because h6 is a white move. After rook f2, you guys want king d1, but that would be just a perpetual check after rook f1 check. So rook f2, white has to go king e1. And rook c2 is not such a good idea because I think white just goes like rook e6 check, then rook e7, and he's gonna push his e-pawn. And without the help of the black king, which has to run away after rook e6 check, the d-pawn is not a very big threat for white. So rook f2, king e1, d2, white is not going king d1, because then after king e3, I suspect white would get mated even. And king takes f2, d1, queen at first looks like a draw, because it seems like an obvious perpetual check, but white has rook e6 check. So, and the rook will be very useful to prevent a perpetual check. And then white is going to promote on c8. So this is the line that you have to calculate. Please avoid spamming, because it also makes the wall chat more difficult to read. And I have to scroll up several pages to read comments from other guys. So this line I was giving when black promotes rook e6 check, this is the line that you have to investigates. No sound is still on, but yes, I did turn off the video for a second. Sorry, I thought the chessboard was more important than my face. Just a second. I don't manage to put it on again. But where is it? Wait. Suddenly the main Zoom page disappears. Why don't I turn? Oh, here it is. Okay, it looks like you guys found it. So after D1 Queen, Rook E6. Go till the end. This line you're giving with Queen E2 check. At the end, I will just play King G3, and this is your last check. Well, you have more checks, but they just render the queen. So it's not. So that's not correct. The Queen E2 thing is not correct because I'll just move my king to G3. And Queen E1, I would take it. Ningxi, my king is on F2, so if you go Queen G1 check, I'll just take it. And this is not a stalemate. I don't get this, that guys, you're, oh wait. There are more comments. Many of you want to check, D2 check, D1 queen, then Rook E6 king D3. After C1 queen, you guys want to go Queen G1 check, but I'll just take your queen. So I don't get it. Because I got this proposal quite a few times. So some of you are almost there, but no correct answer so far. Actually, I do have one correct answer, but I don't have the variation till the end, so it will be correct only once you give me the variation until a draw can be settled. So you understood there are stalemate ideas with the king on d3, but you have to force the stalemate. I mean, you have to give checks, otherwise I'm gonna play queen takes a6 check or something, and you're gonna get, it's not gonna be a stalemate, it's just gonna be a checkmate. Now king d5, just rook b8 and game over. You need to do something active there. So rook f2 is a way to go. And d2, this is, you're correct about this. d1 queen now, if white wants to avoid an easy draw, c8 queen obviously would be a draw after queen d2 and just queen d2, queen d1, queen d3 or whatever. So white needs to play rook e6 check if he wants to play for a win. King f4 doesn't lead to anywhere. You're correct about king d3, c8 queen, and now where is the draw? Can you find the draw? You understood it was about stalemate and so on, but most of you wanted queen g1 when I can just take on g1 because king d2 is possible. The d2 square is available. Some of you said queen c1, but I don't have to take your queen. Then I'll go queen takes a6 check, for example. Queen e2 was proposed at the start. That's cute, but after king g3, you're just lost. King d5 with this queen f3 stuff is not working because your d pawn will be able to advance. There will be no stalemate at all. Linksy, if instead of king d3 you play king f4 and queen d2 check, then I'll play rook e2. It's not queen f1 because I just take it, and d2 is available for your king. Okay, Alan, you're not going far enough. After queen d2 check, if I go to g3, queen f4 is a draw, but queen d2 check, I'll play king g1. Vihan, your line with king d5. You guys are saying are trying to get stalemated with king d5, but there is no stalemate. You can push your pawn. That's why it is important to put the king on d3. So we will find the correct answer first. King d3 is correct. I did confirm that. No correct answer so far. Only one of you guys did propose the right line. He did not make any mistake, but he concluded that it was a draw too early. I mean, one of you guys from the start saw the line and said queen d2 check draw, but I go king g1 and you still have to find how to give a perpetual check or how to stalemate or whatever. The queen d2, it's not over yet. Maybe it's almost over, but if you want me to tell you you're right, you need to give me the full variation. So queen c1 immediately, I don't have to take it. Queen takes g4, I can take on a6 with check, and that doesn't look very promising for black. Okay, one good answer. Congratulations, David. David, you're first. So it's not king d2. King d2, I will just play, I don't know, queen c4 or whatever move. King d2, you're just actually not threatening even to check white. But queen d2 is correct. King g1 is the only good square because king g3, queen f4 would be an easy draw. That would be just a capital check with queen takes g4 check. And after king g1, now you play queen c1 because it's a check. As I said, if you play queen c1 here, the problem is I don't have to take your queen. I'm gonna just take on a6 and I'm gonna win. But if you check me, force me to g1 and then check, then I have to take the queen, otherwise you go queen takes c8 and you win. So I have to take and it's a stalemate. That game was played in Moscow. It was between Grandmasters Titenko and Murray. And it was played in 1963. That's a very old game. Very study-like position. Yeah, I see many good answers later, but David was first. Okay. I think we are done. It's just an hour. Just an hour, Greg, right? Okay, so we're done for today. I hope you. David wrote in private. Okay, that's possible. Let me check. That's possible. It's actually better to write privately because if you get the right answer, then others have a chance to find it. Let me check, David, where was this message? I'm just scrolling. Did I find it? Yeah, it was a private message, which is sent first. I sent to everyone. So that David was first. Okay, thanks for joining tonight. I hope you enjoyed the masterclass. I hope you enjoyed the game, the Topalov game, and I hope you enjoyed the puzzle. I hope it was strong. It was tough enough for you, that puzzle, because you guys wanted something tough. Most of you, at least. Okay, hope you enjoyed, and see you next time. Thanks, Greg, for inviting me, and thanks everyone for joining. You
Thanks so
can
much for the
spam.
class, man.
You can spam now. Go ahead. You can spam as much as you want now that the lesson is over. Okay, good. Have a good. Well, I don't know what time it is where you are, guys, but in my case, I'm gonna sleep. It's 2 a.m. here, so have a good afternoon or good night wherever you are. Bye bye.